Lordship, please on behalf of Friday Group, we welcome all of you. Hrishikesh Roy sir. Yes. With bouquet of flowers, we welcome Lordship. Please come in.
Somebody should just give it a sign.
Please, Lordship.
Okay. Please have a seat.
Friends, this is the 270th Friday Group meeting. Lordship is kind enough to accept our invitation and just to be such a beautiful topic and all. So, Lordship, this is the 11th year. So 19 lakhs viewers we have our own YouTube channel. So, and 222 videos we have. Recently we just felicitated our Gavaisar also, here only same people. So this is our now, I request Srinivas will read few details of sir. Srinivas, please. Stand.
I have the immense pleasure of welcoming today's distinguished speaker, Hon'ble Justice Hrishikesh Roy, who has had an illustrious career in the Indian judiciary. As we know, Lordship has held several responsible positions, including the Judge of the Honorable Supreme Court of India and as Chief Justice of the Honorable Kerala High Court. Lordship has shown deep commitment to legal education and access to justice. Lordship has played a pivotal role in the areas of arbitration law, commercial law, judicial reforms, and legal awareness initiatives. Lordship pursued his BA Honours in Political Science from Delhi University. Lordship completed his law from Campus Law Sector, Delhi University in 1982. Lordship then went on to practice law. Lordship was designated as Senior Advocate by the Guwahati High Court in 2004. Lordship gained recognition for expertise in constitutional and administrative law. Lordship was elevated as a judge of the Guwahati High Court in 2006. Lordship was appointed as the Chief Justice of the Kerala High Court in 2018. Lordship was then elevated as a judge of the Honorable Supreme Court of India in 2019. Lordship retired in 2025. Lordship has made significant contributions towards judicial training and academic engagements. Lordship was nominated as a member of the National Judicial Academic Council, chaired by the Chief Justice of India. Lordship spearheaded training programs for judicial officials under the Guwahati High Court. Lordship served as editor of Atman, a legal newsletter published regularly for a decade from the Guwahati High Court. Lordship also took several initiatives in the interest of legal awareness and mediation. Lordship headed a mediation monitoring committee in Assam, leading to the production of Shako, which means bridge, a training film for mediation programs. Lordship was the executive head of the Assam State Legal Services Authority. Lordship implemented the Reach Out and Respond program to improve access to justice for marginalized communities. Lordship also led the Arunachal Pradesh Legal Services Authority in producing Apni Ajnabi, a short film addressing racial prejudice and promoting legal aid and awareness under the Legal Services Authority Act 1987. Lordship is presently conducting multiple arbitrations as arbitrator. Lordship has been appointed by the Honorable Supreme Court of India as sole arbitrator for international arbitration. And we are grateful to your Lordship that in spite of Lordship's commitment, Lordship's engagement in arbitration, Lordship spared valuable time for young lawyers who will benefit immensely from this lecture. Lordship has retired from judgeship, but Lordship continues to contribute for the welfare of the legal fraternity. We thank you, Lordships, for gracing us today.
Thank you, Srinivas. Very nicely explained, sir. Most of the people may not aware of younger generation. That's what the reason I mean. Today's topic is all of you already circulated. The cultivating court skills for young lawyers. Particularly, most of here, 90% are young lawyers here. So that's today's speaker, our great beloved judge, Hrishikesh Roy Ji. He kind enough to give. Now we'll. Is there a list? Maybe you can take this one. So I'll put it. You can carry it. No,
Okay. Now, it is meant for young lawyers. So even those who have a bit of a white hair, I presume that they think themselves to be young, I suppose. So 3 cheers for the young lawyers who are present here today. And how many of you are first generation lawyers? Oh, that's a substantial number. So there is, good afternoon, sir. So there is enough curiosity on what might possibly be said for the young lawyers. Anybody has a copy of the Constitution? Anybody? No, forget about library, take out Article 22 and somebody can just read out Article 22. Anybody who's got a strong voice can speak without a microphone. Yeah, come, Miss Kulkarni.
Article 22 is a fundamental right under the Indian Constitution that protects individual against arbitrary arrest and detention, providing safeguards such as the right to be informed of the grounds of interest and the right to consult a lawyer and the right to produce before a magistrate within 24 hours of arrest.
Thank you, Ms. Kulka. You see, the Constitution of India recognizes in Article 22 the right of audience to a lawyer, right? So when you are wearing this black coat, when you are wearing the white band, when you are wearing the gown, particularly when you are appearing in court, you are discharging a responsibility which is recognized by the Constitution of India, and it provides to each citizen a right to consult one of you. And where does that take us? It takes us to a situation where the lawyer wears many hats, and when he wears many hats, he will be traveling and acquiring the experiences needed for those many hats in his life journey. Particularly those of you who have started off as a first generation lawyer, I being one of you, I would like to first and foremost say that I, from a childhood, always wanted to become a lawyer. Maybe because of whatever interest that I had in school, but I still have, or perhaps it is somewhere lying in the house, somebody writing that hope, Hrishikesh, you become a successful lawyer. This must have been class 4 or 5, right? So eventually, when I finished my education in 1982 from the Campus Law Center, the childhood dream of becoming a lawyer after I got myself enrolled or whatever in the Bar Council of Delhi, that childhood dream was fulfilled. So there was nothing further for me in the context of my childhood dream to look beyond, because I had become a lawyer. I never thought I'll become a successful lawyer or a government lawyer or an advocate general. Those concepts are not known to me. Now in 1982, when I finished my law, by that time I had, since I was determined that I'll become a lawyer, I had started to go to the chamber of Mr. M.L. Lahoti, who is a very senior lawyer of this court. And since I was in the hostel of the Delhi University, Jubilee Hall Hostel, so I used to go and be in his chamber in the evening. So I started coming to the Supreme Court. This library was not available then. The other library, that's called Library 1. Okay, so Library 1. And when I became a judge here, I went to Library 1. I met Mr. Saraj Kaushal. He's not a very active lawyer anymore, but he is the husband of Sushma Swaraj. And there were many such lawyers. They were on a round table, so I used to go and sit with them. Mr. Lahoti was also part of that group. So 1982, when I started my journey in the Supreme Court, obviously the thought was that perhaps my journey would end as a lawyer in the Supreme Court. But then there were circumstances which needed me to be back home in Guwahati, and that is my hometown. I come from Assam. So that needed me to be in Guwahati. Now when I went to Guwahati, I by this time, hello ma'am, there is something to be said about you also. Oh, you. Okay. So when I went to Guwahati, I have seen the best of lawyers in Delhi. I mean, name any top lawyer. When you are coming to the Supreme Court as a young lawyer, you are seeing the best lawyers performing. So I wanted to join the chamber of the best lawyer, and the best lawyer would be such who can match at that point of time any of the top lawyers of the country. I mean, this was my mind. This was in my mind. Whom did we see in Delhi? We saw Palkhiwala, we saw Ashok Sen, we saw K.K. Venugopal at his peak, we saw Fali Nariman, emerging lawyer, not a very established lawyer at that point of time. K.K. Parasaran. So those were the doyens. And how do I identify the lawyer that I would wish to be associated in Guwahati? Now this is for the young lawyer and those who are yet to become lawyers. I collected names of 4 or 5 lawyers in Guwahati and thought that these 4 or 5 could be my options to become a junior. So I targeted lawyer A. I followed him from court to court starting at 10 o'clock until he finished his work for the day. So with that lawyer, he doesn't know me. I just am following how does he work, what is his work ethics, what is his reputation. I went with lawyer A from court, say 1 to 9. Next day I picked up lawyer B. I followed him from court 1 to 9 again, wherever he had matters. So eventually, I thought that I should try and join the chamber of one Mr. J.B. Bhattacharjee. Now J.B. Bhattacharjee was a lawyer of the Guwahati High Court, started in a very humble fashion, but he was such a lawyer that who was comfortable in all branches of law. Tax, criminal, civil, writ, any branch of law, he was very comfortable, and he was the first choice if there was any major matter, either coming from Delhi or Calcutta. So J.B. Bhattacharjee was the first. Now those who worked in J.B. Bhattacharjee chamber, now this is where I want to say something. It was very difficult. The chamber time was surcharged, meaning thereby papers would be thrown, juniors would be shouted at, and because he expected perfection. And so attrition rate in that chamber was rather high because people can't stick around, people don't take that kind of thing. Nowadays young lawyers will not take it. But those who stuck around, that chamber of J.B. Bhattacharjee, you see, he used to prepare his notes. All lawyers, they prepare the notes. So any of us who have grown out of that chamber will prepare the notes in a similar fashion because that is how we learn. And in that note, and this is what I want to tell the young lawyers, preparing your note is very important. Now what should your note contain? There could be party AB, petitioner, versus say Union of India, but the contesting party will be respondent number 9, XY. So you must bear in mind that although respondent number 1 is the Union of India, the contesting party is AB and respondent number 9, XY. So this should be the first thing that should be highlighted in your note. Then, what is the case all about? A brief summary of the case so that just looking at the note, you know that this is the case because in course of time, you might be dealing with 20 cases, 25 cases. So your note itself should indicate, okay, this is the case. As soon as item 18 is called, you know that this is the case that I have to deal with now. So, the note that was prepared in the chamber of J.B. Bhattacharjee is the note that we follow. Of course, he had blue ink, yellow, green ink and all that. And the cases or the case law that the respondent is like to rely upon is in a different colored ink because he was prepared also with the case of the other side. And then in another color of ink, what could be his explanation as to why the respondent's case should not be applied in his case is also in another color ink. You don't have to use so many colors, but I'm just indicating the kind of meticulous preparation that was expected in that particular chamber. And lo and behold, that chamber has produced, and it is a chamber which is Assam not considered to be a very advanced state. That chamber has produced so many successful lawyers, so many High Court judges, and 4 Supreme Court judges, including 1 Chief Justice of India. One chamber. And the way we argued matters in that, learning from that chamber, there was somebody, Niloy Dotto, you know. Niloy Dotto is another very successful lawyer of more. So he described the people from J.P. Bhattacharya chamber as part of the J.P. Gharana. Now just imagine, you have a Banaras Gharana, you have a Patiala Gharana, but the lawyers who were coming out of the stable of J.P. Bhattacharya were described as J.P. Gharana. Now, I sort of started out on my own. Now when I started out on my own, Assam was a very disturbed state. So we were doing a lot of work, detention matters, Armed Forces Special Power Act, Preventive Detention Act. So those matters usually are people who did not have much to pay. So they could not offer to pay to the successful and lawyers who demanded, fee, a normal fee, not very high fee, but even that could not be paid. So we as young bunch of lawyers, we stepped into the, that void there, that they needed lawyers, they needed legal assistance. So we provided that, and mostly pro bono. So one was starting to getting a bit of a recognition. Now since I was dealing a lot of these cases, I also got involved. There's a very famous, well-known, reputed newspaper called the Assam Tribune. Chandigarh, you have a Chandigarh Tribune. So Assam Tribune is the most reputed newspaper. So one day somebody in the editorial team of Assam Tribune said that, Hrishikesh, would you like to do some law reporting for us? I said, I have not done it, but I don't mind trying it. So, initially I wrote out a few reports about court proceedings, and then eventually I was made the law reporter of Assam Tribune. And soon after, PTI Press Trust of India learned that I was doing it, so they also made me their law reporter. So Assam Tribune and PTI was doing as a kind of a thing when I spare time. And then we got involved with what is called the, I was interested in various activities, including music. So Guwahati Music Society was born in my chamber in Guwahati. Some of us, we decided that we need to, propagate Western classical music. And since there were people who were interested, but we thought that we should have occasional concert. So we sat down, few of us, and then eventually there was what is called the Western Classical Music. Guwahati Music Society was born, and because I could neither sing nor I could play any instrument, so they made me the president of the Guwahati Music Society. And I do not know, some of you might be familiar with the Shillong Chamber Choir.
Yes.
Anybody listen to Shillong Chamber Choir songs?
Yes.
So Shillong Chamber Choir were based in Shillong, led by a pianist, a brilliant composer called Neil Nongkinri. Now all these, now grown-up adults of Shillong Chamber Choir were schoolboys and girls at that point of time. So and they were doing only Western classical music. So there was a bit of a connect. So first time Shillong Chamber Choir came out of Meghalaya, Shillong, to perform somewhere outside of Meghalaya. They did it in the Don Bosco School Auditorium. And we as Guwahati Music Society hosted the Shillong Chamber Choir. So their first performance outside of Shillong was in Guwahati under our organized effort. And I was comparing that particular show. Now, that was the time, this was 2005-2006, when Justice Sudarshan Reddy, who was the Chief Justice, who came to Supreme Court eventually, was the Chief Justice in Guwahati, And by that time, I started to do work because ML Lahoti, somehow I got exposed to the central excise, the indirect tax there. So some of those matters where people from Delhi used to go and argue matters. So I used to be pitted by the, say, director of anti-evasion or the central excise department or the customs department. So I was doing some important interesting matters in the Chief Justice's court. Once Ashok Sen, I had argued matters against Jetmalani, I had argued matters, basically contested. And once Soli Sorabji was there in Guwahati. So he was on the other side, I was from the other side, and it was a contested matter, maybe lasted 2 days of argument, and then eventually judgment was reserved. Then Soli Sorabji was invited by Chief Justice Sudarshan Reddy for a cup of tea after the arguments were over and the judgment was reserved. I did not know all this, I came to know about it much later. So Soli Sorabji apparently told Justice Sudarshan Reddy that my opponent in this case was Hrishikesh Roy. I think you should consider him for elevation. Soli Sorabji said that. But by that time, Soli Sorabji of course was not aware of this. Sudarshan Reddy told him that I have already shortlisted his name for elevation. So anyway, this was one part. And then Justice Sudarshan Reddy called me to his chamber one day. His peon, the Chief Justice's peon came and said, "Saab ne salam diya." So I went and he asked me that I want to recommend you and for judgeship. So I was not at all interested, and the reason was that I was really enjoying the profession. I was doing some good, important work, having interesting battles with the stalwarts in the field. I was part of the Guwahati Music Society. I was playing tennis in the afternoon or morning. So one had a very busy, fruitful life. Now, why should anybody give up all that and become a judge? Was my question. So I told Justice Sudarshan Reddy as politely as I could say, "Sir, I have just become a senior advocate a couple of years earlier, and I'm getting to do some interesting cases, some of which I am doing before you also in court number 1. So I would not like to become a judge." So then Sudarshan Reddy, he persisted, no, don't say no, I'm not taking you no right away, but think about it, come back after a week, come back after 10 days. So after 10-12 days, he will again invite me for a cup of tea. So I kept on saying no, and then he invited me and my wife Chandana for a cup of tea. And that, brilliant. Anyway, so when he called us, and this time he did not call us to the High Court, he called us to his residence. So we went to the Chief Justice's bungalow. Of course, my wife knew that Chief Justice had already wanted to recommend me. So during conversation, Sudarshan Reddy understood that Chandana is inclined to my becoming a judge. He got that in, right? So anyway, I was unaware of that. That conversation happened outside of my hearing. So I appear in court, lot of matters before the Chief Justice's court. At the end of the day, he will call me for a cup of tea. He said, "हाँ, ऋषिकेश क्या सोचा?" The usual. So sir, आप कहीं और को सोच लीजिए sir. And then I go back home, and then I'm given a cup of tea again by my wife, and she said it's not a bad thing becoming a judge. And her argument was that there are hundreds and thousands of lawyers, but only few judges. And she gave me some 1,000 numbers of High Court judges. I said, how does she know all this? She's not supposed to be knowing how many High Court judges are there. So anyway, so how long can you resist the Chief Justice in court, and particularly the wife at home? Yes, you can still resist. But if it's a combined force of the Chief Justice and the wife, it's very difficult. So at some point of time, after some weeks, I had to say yes. And this story of my wife being inducted into team persuasion by Justice Sudarshan Reddy, I was unaware because he made my wife promise that she's not going to tell this to me. And when I became a judge after 4, 5, 7 years, I was visiting Hyderabad, and I thought that I'll make a courtesy call on Justice Sudarshan Reddy. And when I visited, At the end of tea and everything, I said, sir, okay, I'm taking leave. And when I was leaving, he said, Hrishikesh, you're going back to Guwahati? I said, yes. He said, you will meet your wife? I said, surely. So tell her that I have relieved her of the promise that I have extracted from her. So you can go and ask what was the promise. But then, sometimes it becomes so interesting. He said, all right, I'm going to tell you myself. So Sudarshan Reddy told me that this is the promise that I extracted out of his wife, your wife. So I'm thankful that, we worked as a team to bring you to the bench. So anyway, that's one story with the bench. Now, when we talk about a lawyer being successful, and there are many, as I see, successful lawyers, including judge. So, each one has a tactic of their own. There is an additional Solicitor General who is arguing so many important matters. So, how do they prepare themselves? One of the very key elements of being a successful lawyer is to have a mastery over the tools of your trade. And what is the tool of your trade? It is the language. Through your language that you describe the cause in the petition or your application, it is through your language that you convey to the court why the court should accept the plea that you are canvassing before the court. So having a grip over the language is a very important skill that a lawyer must cultivate and possess. Now, how do you develop the skills, the tool of a trade? Obviously, you must have sufficient stock of words. The stock of words you will not get by looking at the dictionary. The dictionary might have thousands of words, but how words are used in a sentence, how sentences are framed, how paragraphs are separated, all these you will get to know only by reading authors who are successful authors. Besides having a stock of words, how words are used in a sentence, how the same word can be used to mean different things in different contexts. So that is something which I would suggest to the lawyer who is going to the law student who is going to be a lawyer, and to the young lawyer, and also to the not so young lawyer, to have a cultivate of reading, to have a hobby of reading. Now you don't have to read law, it's not necessary at all. You can read any book, any book. For women lawyers, I would particularly suggest Justice Leela Seth, On Balance. It is her story, life story. And Justice Leela Seth, who was in the Delhi High Court judge, eventually retired as the Chief Justice of the Himachal Pradesh High Court, did not come to Supreme Court. She is wonderfully written about her life, starting out as a lawyer after doing her barristery in England, starting out as a lawyer in Calcutta, going on to Patna. Similarly, say Lord Denning's book, some of the things that I am telling you about mastery over language, it is from Lord Denning's Discipline of Law. He himself said that, you see, suppose somebody is studying mathematics. Now mathematics people are good with numbers, right? But can numbers convey something to the court in an effective way? What will convey? It is your words, it is your sentence, it is how you pitch it. That is how it is going to convey to the court. So Lord Denning said that I started to read all variety of books, including Shakespeare and other things, and then eventually I cultivated the habit. And when you become a master, you will be able to say things simply, precisely, without your sentence being very long. This is something you need to cultivate. And not only lawyers speaking on the basis of what they have learned in the chamber, but also presenting it before the court. That's also equally important. You know that some of the lawyers are more successful than the others. Why they are more successful? We can have any number of reasons. But one of the advice that I myself did is to follow successful lawyers. How do they argue a matter? Same matter, if Fali Nariman is presenting in a particular way, another veteran will put it in another way. So just by looking at and listening to these lawyers perform in court, you will be able to understand what is good, what works, what doesn't work. Very important things. My first experience to say something in the Supreme Court, it ended in a practical disaster. Now, this was court number 1, headed by the father of Dhananjay, who is my batchmate, so I am calling him Dhananjay Chandrachud. So his father was presiding in court number 1. And Mr. Lahoti said, Hrishikesh, I am going to the High Court. If I don't reach back, seek a passover of item 11 or 12 or whatever. So I was prepared, entire night I prepared. I have to say, my lord, this matter may be passed over. Entire night I was preparing, right? This is the dialogue I was preparing. Now next day, so this was item 11, our item was 11. So item 10 and item 9 were heavy matters, meaning they are by many parties and a lot of stalwart lawyers. Now when multiple parties are there, what happens? The entire front area is crowded, right? So item 9 over, item 10 has just got over and courtmaster is calling item 11. So I am trying to push past the lawyers who are all standing in the front, and I knew that they are just not looking, that they are thinking that there is nobody in item 11, right? So from the back I am saying, my lord, the matter be passed over. And perhaps I am saying, my lord, the matter be passed over. Because I was so nervous. So nobody is hearing. So I pushed past, and then next time when I said it so loudly, my lord, the matter be how it is. So eventually, of course, the matter got passed over. But getting over the nervousness of speaking in the court, it will happen to every lawyer. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. Anybody you are looking up now who is successful, he would have had these first days, right? So these are nothing to be ashamed of. But very often, a young lawyer, because of his inexperience, when confronted by a judge saying something strongly, you are not well prepared, what is this point that you are this thing, he might have said very sternly. Now a young lawyer might get a little offended, that why is he saying in such a fashion. You can never show your anger to the court. I think this is a basic fundamental thing. But then Nariman had indicated that we don't see him getting angry, but occasionally he would also get annoyed with what foolish questions that the court is asking. So he said there's a way, because you are angry and you don't want to show your anger to the bench. So you shout at the junior. What is this? And lo and behold, when I'm sitting in the bench, when I see the senior lawyer shouting at the junior, I'm thinking perhaps all that anger is addressed towards me. Very often you feel, because I know that this is the trick that the lawyers play. And so if I see him shouting too much at the junior, I think basically he wanted to shout at the judge, but because I'm sitting in the bench, he's not able to. So these are some of these fundamental tricks, but one of the things that I would always emphasize for the young lawyer is that you must have integrity in the things that you do. It's very important. The court must understand that if submission is being made by lawyer A, he or she is definitely not going to say knowingly something false or will not misguide the court. Unknowingly, things may happen, but knowingly he will not do that, right? This is very important, to set up your reputation upfront. And of course, your preparation has to be top-notch. Prepare your facts, apply the law to them, and then thereafter. Now be very clear in your submission. You should not be showing as if you are confused. You should not be saying, or that shows that you are not very certain about what you wish to say. Now, there are a lot of senior lawyers, extremely successful lawyers, who might be thinking that who is this retired judge coming and telling us all these fundamental things. But of course, I'm not telling it to the successful lawyers, I'm telling it to some of you who might be young enough to appreciate what I'm trying to say. Then, be up to date naturally with the precedents, etc. But then that's another thing. Our time, very often a successful lawyer will have his, notes of cases in a diary, and he will guard it with all this thing, ferocity, So these are the judgments on injunction, these are the judgments on bail, and he'll put the latest, as soon as the SEC or the AIR will come, he'll put the latest judgment and he'll protect it ferociously. Nowadays, click of a mouse, you are getting 500 judgments on a particular point of law, and that is why it is called the case law diarrhea. You have so much, and unless you apply your mind, you are not able to say to the court. If the court says, do you have any precedents on this? You might hand him over 50, but what you are required to do is that this is the latest one, or this is by the largest bench, and this sets up the law in its entirety. So if you read these three, that should be good enough. Or if you read just one, which consolidates all the other preceding earlier judgments, this is a skill that you can acquire only by deep study and through experience. Now, when you are fighting in court in a case, only one party can be the winner. It is important for you to be gracious in losing a case. Why it is necessary? I give an example from my own chamber. One of our colleagues, when I was early days in my professional career, he had a case brief to handle on his own. So we were sitting, waiting for our matter along with my senior G.Seshagiri sir. So this colleague, who was contemporary of mine, he had argued a matter, let us say in court 5, and he came into court number 1, and he had such a, gleeful smile on his face. And when we naturally asked, kya hua? And he said, main case jeet ke aaya hu, right? And he had that gleeful smile on his face. So sir noticed it. And what sir later on called the juniors in the chamber, said that today so-and-so, he secured a good verdict in his favor, and I'm happy for him. But he came with, such a, chest out kind of a expression. I want to ask you, suppose a case verdict goes against you, will you come crying out of the court? Why is a client engage you? Because you are a professional person. So the outcome of a case should not determine whether you will be thumping your chest or whether you will be crying. That the client can do that, but not the professional lawyer. So you must have a professional bearing in seeing the verdict in a given case. So that is what. Then one important thing is, all of us reaching the court 9:30, 10, whatever time, being in the bar and going home after a full day's work. So a lot of time you are spending in each other's company. Don't be harsh to your colleagues. If you have a kind word to say to your colleague, please say that. If you have something negative to say, don't say it out, not necessary. Because you are spending so much time together. And if this time that you spend together if that is not going to be a happy time, then say 1/3 of the day, the married man has to go back to their wives. So there, of course, some happy moments, but it cannot be a surcharge thing. So you have to be you have to be, pleasant to your colleagues in the bar. Very important. And being fit. Supreme Court lawyers, I know, are fit. Going from one side of the court to the other side, then coming from chamber, that side, and those are the lucky ones. So you have to be fit. And if you sort of ask any of the busy lawyers in Supreme Court, they all have some sporting activity. If not sporting activity, at least walking. You ask any of the senior lawyers, either they are playing badminton, or they are into yoga, or they are doing at least walking, somebody is swimming, somebody is playing tennis, somebody is playing golf, whatever. You need to have that fitness. And it is not only fitness of body, fitness of mind as well, right? Now, I would think that these are some of the things that I wanted to say. Of course, one thing, of course, is there that if you have a case, don't pitch the biggest point in the case, always underpitch the case to the court. That's a strategy I think any successful lawyer will tell you. That don't start off your submission by saying, I have an outstanding foolproof case. Immediately, the judges think that, okay, let's see what is your outstanding case. And they find out it's not such an outstanding case, right? So it is always better to underpitch your case. That's a simple strategy. A lot of senior people are there, I think they will just tell you, and they might be thinking why Hrishikesh Roy is saying these silly things, right? Now, one occasion when I had opportunity to speak with some lawyers in a different function. Now they asked me that you take an interest in theatre, ma'am, that is where I am coming. You take an interest in theatre, we did some theatre in school and college, and I take an active interest in going and watching play. Now, on that occasion, I made a comparison between theatre and what lawyers do in court. Now, you will find lawyers who are they present their case very softly. You will find lawyers who are they strongly present. You will find lawyers who are going from place A to place B in making their argument. Can you think of some lawyer like that? Huh? Can you think?
Yes.
Many of them.
Many. Okay. Now, what does a lawyer do? He either is instructing or he is arguing, right? Now let us take the case of an arguing lawyer. So he's mastered his facts, he's made his notes, and is preparing through his notes what he is going to say to the court, right? So what the lawyer is doing in the previous evening, he is writing the script that he will present to the court. His audience, of course, are not those who are in front of the stage, but his audience would be the judges. Now, judges are going to watch whether the lawyers who is arguing the matter has said the right thing. So he is script writing. Now, when he is script writing, the arguing lawyer is also the lead actor, isn't it? So he is the lead actor and he is speaking out his lines in court. Now, a lawyer, think of any successful lawyer, they each have their own way of presenting. They will make theatrical gestures, they will have pauses, and then they will come back with the main point. If you go on mumbling, the point doesn't get communicated to the judge. So pausing, the poise, the gestures at the appropriate time are important things that a theatre actor on stage does to effectively communicate to the audience. Now, a successful lawyer equally has to do all that. And his audience, of course, is the court, the judge, and the other side lawyer, of course. And what is the role of the junior instructing lawyers? Some of the senior arguing lawyers are so underprepared that I find the junior lawyers are, if given an opportunity, would perhaps do a better job. But what is the role of the junior lawyer? They are the prompters in the play, right? They are prompting to the senior, आप ये बोलिए, सर ये page 45 में आइए, ये point 608 में है, right? So the junior lawyers, instructing lawyers are the prompters. Now, the two sides, opponents, now think of a fencing, Olympic sport fencing. So what is, you thrust and you parry, right? The other side is. So the lawyers of both sides, they are doing thrust and parry, like a fencing thing. And how they are doing it? Each one has their own method. And why they are doing it? They are trying to gain brownie points from the judges, right? That let my thirst appeal to the judge, and the point that is put forward by my opponent should not appeal to the judge, or I have an answer. If it's a wrestling match, I have an answer to the दाव that he's put, and मैं उसका दाव निकाल के उसको पटक दिया हूँ, right? Wrestling, anybody interested in wrestling? You are? Ma'am, you are interested in wrestling? Very nice. So
My
nice.
father used to see her wrestling.
Okay.
That's why.
Very nice, very nice. As soon as we talk about our generation, we think about Dara Singh, right? So, wrestling used to be a sport in my school also. So, and anyway, so then who is the amicus in the context of a play? In play, there is some character who is the Vidushak. Now, Vidushak is neither a actor nor is a party, but he has an important role in the play. So, the amicus curiae can be a Vidushak, being the disinterested spectator or a disinterested participant who is advising the court. Now, the choice of words, the script that a lawyer is writing for presenting the next day is so important that I've heard through my own eyes when Palkiwala was arguing the income tax matter and the Bombay Tire matter, Central Excise, 1985-86. He said, I am using this particular word in this particular sentence. Please take the word and accept its meaning, not by substituting the word that I am using. Do not substitute a particular word that I have used in my submission and think of another word to understand what I am saying. He said, every word that I say are terms of art. And terms of art, if you have to describe a particular submission of yours, in order to reach that level of submission, it has to be something which is the product of hours and hours of study. Similarly, I heard Jetmanani arguing the Indian Express matter, saying that if the interpretation that you are going to accept as given by my opponent for this proposition, you will be doing violence to the English language. They used to speak with that much of authority. So your script writing as a performer in court has to be pitch perfect. How you are presenting your arguments has to be pitch perfect. Not only the script has to write well, script has to read well, because the judges do their homework in the chamber previous evening, and it must appeal to the ears of the judges. So if you have a monotonous way of submitting, if you do not have pauses and gestures which will emphasize the point that you are trying to make, it is going to be not such an impressive submission. In fact, each lawyer in court is a performer. And I just want to give an example. This was a battle between, yes. Now, this was a battle between C.K. Daftari, one side, and Fali Nariman on the other side. Bombay High Court has given a decision on the excise law, Moraji Desai's time, and then the matter eventually travelled to the Supreme Court. Now, after Nariman's submission was over, Daftari stood up, and when he was about to make his submission, he said, "My lord," and then he's coughing, you know. And then again, after some time, he's trying to get his breath back. Again, he's, again coughing. Now, a lot of coughings are happening, so the judge solicitously told Daftari, "Mr. Daftari, why don't you just take a sip of water? Your throat seems to be troubling you." Then Daftari came into his elements. He said, "My lord, there is nothing wrong at all with my throat. It is only the arguments of my learned friend that I am finding difficult to swallow." So that is all theatrics. It has happened in court. So, but how effectively he is demolished, or at least attempting to demolish, must be some very brilliant argument of Fali Nariman. So that's all theatrics. So Sheshu is giving me dirty looks. He said, "We are calling for a little time. Now everybody has to go home." So my final thing that I say before you is think of, let us say Amitabh Bachchan, right? Amir Khan, top actors, we all appreciate what they do. Name another actor, somebody, anybody? Shah Rukh Khan, all right. Best actor this time.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Shivaji Ganeshan, right. Akshay Kumar. And Mr. Messi, who just got for 12 fail, he got the best thing. So I have a photograph with Mr. Messi in the backside of the court. Now think about it. Okay, now let us think of some women actresses.
Rani Mukherjee.
There is a family. Okay. Bhanumati. Okay, then Hema Malini. Okay. Deepika Padukone, right. Saroja Devi, Madhuri Dixit.
And Madhubala, sir.
Madhubala. Okay. Meena Kumari, right. So Tanuja also. Kajol's mom?
Kajol also.
Kajol also. Okay, now this is a puzzle and I want Sheshu to tell me after some time. Compare, say, let us say, take 10 lawyers, let us say senior arguing lawyers. Let us say Amitabh Bachchan, he's done some court roles also. Which lawyer fits in best with Amitabh Bachchan? I'm not saying anything. You take a vote. Apparently Shyam Diwan is a favorite of Sneha.
His voice.
I'm going to tell Madhvi next time. And which of the lady lawyers in their presentation, in their mannerism, would resemble, say, Deepika Padukone or Hema Malini or anybody? So, have a little poll going on amongst you, and Sheshu will give me the, thing. For instance, he would not mind. Say Mukul Rogi, right? He's got a loud voice, and I have seen Mukul Rogi when he's arguing, he's starting from this side, then he's going to this side, and his arms and his this thing. And as you said, Shyam Diwan, very effective. And these are the lawyers. Ashira Bhati, Madhvi Diwan, each of them are solid lawyers, right? And older time again, we have had some very huge stalwarts. So these are all performing people. But the other day, when I came to the ladies' bar room, they performed a skit where Ma'am, you are playing the role of a victim, not a victim, I think. You are playing the role of a senior advocate, advising a person who was being sexually harassed by the other side lawyer, right? Yes, that was very interesting. I remember that. You see, you should also, since it is a performance that you do before the court, you should also try and see good theatre. You should also try to see good films. I do not know how many of you have had occasion to say 12 Angry Men. Anybody familiar? 12 Angry Men? Right. Yeah. So 12 Angry Men, the Hindi version is Ek Ruka Hua Faisala. Ruka Hua Faisala, right? Pankaj Kapoor. And in fact, all the stalwarts of NSG are there in this Ek Ruka Hua Faisala. It's a murder trial and it's a jury members who are debating. Then witness for the prosecution. And if you want to have a little funny time, My Cousin Vinny. Anybody has seen My Cousin Vinny? You have? Isn't it interesting? So, films, how the actors are pitching, they're all performing. The lawyers actually are also performing every day in and out before the court. So, how to pitch your voice? How to pick up this particular word to say it out loudly and this particular word not so loudly? How to fit in a particular sentence? Some of the things that you learn, because it is the effective communicator, somebody like Nasiruddin Shah. When he is playing a particular role, he will speak in a particular way. If he is playing, say, if he is representing, let us say, a victim of sexual violence, Nasiruddin Shah as a lawyer is going to put the case in a very different tone. But if he is going to do the represent Don, he will put it in a very different tone, right? So these are the things that you can just pick up, and I thank all of you for this opportunity to speak to this illustrious gathering. Sheshu, particularly you, and all the people who have not gone home as yet, although it's a Friday afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lordship, the way you enlightened us, cultivating skills and other things. How many people like today's lecture? Can you raise your hands?
Brilliant.
Lordship, kindly see. Let us give a first, before giving a vote of thanks, let us give a standing ovation to Lordship. Sneha, please give a vote of thanks. Sneha Kalita.
Respected Justice Hrishikesh Roy, Seshu sir, founder of Friday Group, distinguished senior advocates and learned members of the bar, dear colleagues and friends. I think I have prepared a note, sir, for your kind. I must say, it's a one time, you get to know the insight of judge, the court craft. We are very lucky, sir, to have this occasion to witness. And at the outset, I, on behalf of Friday Group, I deeply extend my heartfelt gratitude to Honorable Justice Hrishikesh Roy for generously sharing his holistic wisdom of and blending the theaterist and the advocacy. That is one way of looking at it, and we will surely will be living up to this. And also his lived jurisprudence, continuing lived jurisprudence, the wealth he has accumulated, and his legal acumen and his humanitarian aspects of detention laws, how he has crafted in the judgment, many of his judgment, that is truly encouraging and motivating. And if I may put it in one sentence of how he has crafted, how he has educated us in the court craft, is that it is not a magic spell which you would get in one day, but it's a persistence and continued confident but not overconfident, as your Lordship has said. And also with fairness and integrity, you have to do your court craft. That is one thing we have learned, your Lordship, from your guidance. And lastly, but not as a valuable member, Seshu sir, thank you for the Friday group, for its continuous legal education across the globe and his dedicated team. And also I must say to one thing, your Lordship, that Lordship, apart from his jurisprudence and legal acumen, he has produced two films which my learned friend had just read, Apne Ajnabi and Sacho, which is when he has done it in Legal Service Authority. One was for giving justice to racial discrimination and legal access to the legal justice to them, and one is the mediation, how the mediation can be clubbed for giving justice delivery system. Your Lordship, we are very grateful for your presence and for your lecture. And today, 217th meeting of the Friday group. Seshu sir, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Sneha, very nicely explained a note of thanks. We are always grateful. Lordship will take your autograph here and any message also.